All right, let's talk about how I got rid of my hormonal acne naturally. So, I guess the first place that I should start is what exactly caused the hormonal acne. Because growing up, I didn't really struggle with acne much. I got maybe one or two that is pretty normal within like the teenage years. But up until I was around 21, I didn't really struggle much with acne. Now that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked. No, what? But no, what really changed is I decided to go on birth control for its intended purposes. Now, I decided to try out the Depo-Provera shot because looking at, I think it was like Planned Parenthood at the time, it was the most effective, even though it was like a few percentage points off, the most effective type of contraception. So I decided to go on that route after I was on it for a year because ideally don't want to go be on it for more than a year because it is so detrimental to your bone health. You want to do only a year, if that. And then I switched over to the next one on implant for roughly 2 years. Now, my hormonal acne definitely slowly got worse as I was on birth control, and that is when I realized that it was actually being caused by my birth control because at the time I wasn't sure what exactly was causing the pretty bad breakouts. So during this time, a couple of things that I had tried out was, for instance, detox teas. Now that I'm a clinical herbalist, I can let you know my honest opinion on detox tea is that they are a horrible scam and that you should not do detox teas because that isn't what your body needs. No amount of detoxing will help balance out the hormones, which when you're on birth control, that is literally what it's doing is imbalancing hormones to prevent conception. So moral of the story, don't use detox teas because that's not going to help, and it's also kind of rude to use plants in such a way as such a like a scummy way, but I digress. So of course the detox teas didn't help. I also tried changing up my diet, so I decided to go to a keto diet to see if maybe it was the amount of carbs I was eating that was impacting my acne, which of course, just side note, it's not the amount of carbs that you're eating. Along the same time, I was also working out a lot more just to see if maybe I just wasn't working out enough, if my pores were clogged. I once again didn't know that it was the birth control, so it was something internal that was causing the cystic acne. And finally, upon different forums for cystic acne or just like acne help, I saw that some other people were saying that their birth control was actually the reason for their acne, and that once they get off of the birth control, their skin cleared up. So of course, that's what I wanted. I wanted to get the implant out, which of course it is internal, so I had to go abroad because I live in the US to get the implant taken out. Now, I thought after getting the implant out that it would be good, that everything would be all better, and that my skin would finally clear up. But I was wrong. I was very, very wrong because it did not get better. In fact, my cystic acne got a lot worse. Now, along this time, I was trying literally everything under the sun to clear up my acne. I was using really harsh skincare. So specifically, one that comes to mind is the Neutrogena. It was like a alcohol pads almost that would you wipe on your face. I'm gonna try to find them so I can insert a picture of them. But they just like reeked of just rubbing alcohol, and I was putting that on my face, which like looking back, I just kind of cringe at that because that is you don't want to be using rubbing alcohol on your skin. That is way too much, too harsh. I also went further down the rabbit hole of quote unquote clean eating, and I decided to try vegetarianism for both the health aspects of it, getting rid of anything that could be causing the hormonal acne, as well as like the animal welfare aspect of it as well. And then after a few months, that didn't really help much. So then I decided to do full veganism to try to see if maybe cutting out all dairy would also help on the acne that was pretty severe at the time. Now, during this time, I did see a few dermatologists. The first one was a virtual dermatologist, just because it was just a little bit more in my price range, and I actually never saw anyone's face. I just kind of emailed back and forth with someone, and then they sent me, I want to say it was spiritualactone as it's either spiritualactone or doxycycline for the medication that they gave me to improve my acne. Now, don't get me wrong, the medication helped and my acne went away, it cleared up, but I didn't want to be on medication for the rest of my life because whenever I would question them on like when I can get off of this, because its intended purpose is not for acne and it did have different side effects, they would just say that the acne would come back, which I didn't really enjoy. I didn't really like that perspective, so I ended up getting off of it, and of course, the acne did indeed come back full force. a few more months had passed, and I decided to just bite the bullet and see like an actual in-person dermatologist. And once again, they did prescribe different medications that did help, of course, clear up my acne, and everything was all good. But kind of with the virtual dermatologist, I'm whenever I questioned when I could get off of the medication, they would once again be like, well, if you come off of it, it's just going to come back, which also just did not sit right with me because I didn't understand how I would have to continuously get medicated for acne when that wasn't the case before. So just something in the back of my head just knew that there was something more, something that was not really being addressed. I just didn't know exactly what it was. Now, completely unrelated to this, I was just kind of going through different Pinterest. At the time, I would think I was looking at maybe like some witchy aesthetic things, and I just found a couple just through the internet ways, found some stuff about herbalism and just herbal medicine, and I got more and more intrigued. And the further I dove into it, the more I realized that it is more of a framework that I really enjoy, which is like holistic healing. Now, I really thought that this was the missing piece or the link I was missing to be able to balance my hormones because at the time I realized it was my hormones that were out of balance, even though everyone was saying that it's impossible because the birth control has been out of your system for many years at this point. But what I now understand is that my hormones were never able to rebalance back out after the birth control. So it wasn't the birth control itself that was still having an impact. It was just that it did almost impact my hormones in a way that my hormones weren't able to rebalance themselves back out, either by nutrient deficiencies, which of course I was doing a lot of different diet changes and a lot of really intense workouts at the time. So of course my hormones weren't able to get back on track. Now, as I dove further into herbalism to try to heal my cycle, heal my hormones, I realized that I wasn't really getting the information that I needed. Whenever I looked up ways to balance your hormones through herbs, I got just like a plethora of different herbs and not how to take them, or just there wasn't really a concrete way for me to figure out what exactly I needed. So I decided to further my education on herbalism. At this point, the herbs that I was taking for my hormonal imbalance and also just digestive health, sleep, just stress levels, everything in general was helping the cystic acne, but it hadn't really gone away 100%. It went down from like a level 10 down to like a level 3. And the more education I got both in the herbal sphere as well as just cycle health, hormonal health, and just like holistic health in general, I started to realize that maybe I had missed a piece when it comes to my nutrition. Now I enjoy looking at traditional cultures around the world when it comes to ideas for how we should be eating because there's a reason that our society and just us as humanity have been able to get to this point, and that was through our ancestors cooking and just that wisdom that's in there. Now, I myself am Colombian, so I still have those pretty strong roots of what kind of foods that we eat, just because it's still apparent to this day. The foods that have been passed down through many and many, many generations. And I think at that point is when I started to question if maybe veganism isn't really for me or isn't really the best for our hormones. Now, at the time, I had been vegan for maybe 4 years, and my partner had inherently also been vegan for maybe 2 to 3 years, and we had kind of a health scare with him just because he was underweight. His nervous system was very frazzled. He ended up getting panic attacks. Long story short, we started to incorporate more animal proteins in our diet just because we had come to the conclusion that maybe we need to reevaluate our nutrition. And then after some time, he started getting better, and my hormonal acne, that at this point had been 5 years that I had been struggling with, had finally started to go away. So now it's been roughly 3 years since that 5 year time span of journeying through trying to get rid of my hormonal acne, my cystic acne that had plagued me for many years and really took a harsh toll on my mental health and just my confidence and self esteem. So now at the other end of it, I can confidently say that you can indeed balance your hormones naturally and get rid of the cystic acne naturally because it is a way of our bodies communicating with ourselves. It is a sign that there is something deeper going on, that there is a hormonal imbalance going on, that there may be some digestive issues going on that would then lead to the cystic acne. So no amount of skincare, which I wish I knew that at the time because I spent quite a bit of money on skincare and trying different skincare regimens. But there is nothing that we can put on ourselves externally that will help what is internally going on. Now, that's also not to say that I don't get acne anymore because I still do get some once in a while, but the vast difference of what I get now versus what I got then is that I might get a breakout maybe once in a while, especially if I'm a little bit more stressed or if I'm having a little bit more desserts than I should, which I do partake once in a while because everything's a balance. But yeah, I'll get a breakout maybe once per cycle. When back in the height of my severe cystic acne, I was getting a breakout 3 weeks out of my full cycle. So that would be 3 weeks that I was constantly breaking out with only 1 week of me actually not having any breakouts. So that is a very big difference. So the big moral of the story is that you can heal your acne naturally, and ideally you do want to do it naturally because it does get to the root cause of why you're getting the hormones in the first place. Because a lot of times I thought my body had just turned against me, that it was just rebelling, but really it was just trying to communicate with me. I hope that helped you. I hope it gave you hope, and I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.